Hi, my name is Harman Grai, and I'm gonna be talking about acetaminophen or Tylenol, in other words. And so, so the basic information is that the common name of it is acetaminophen or Tylenol. The IUPAC name is N, 4-hydroxyphenyl acetaminide. The condensed formula is C8H9NO2. The molar mass. So there's 8 carbons, 9 hydrogens, 1 nitrogen, and 2 oxygens, which give you a complete molar mass of 151.18 grams per mole. And here's the complete Lewis dot diagram. And so the strongest intermolecular force. So the strongest molecular force in the molecule is the hydrogen bonding of oxygen and hydrogen. This is due to a couple of reasons. Firstly, hydrogen bonding is the strongest intermolecular force. Nitrogen, oxygen, and fluorine all bond to hydrogen, and that bonds to another nitrogen, oxygen, or fluorine to create a hydrogen bonding. In acetaminophen, there are 2 hydrogen bondings of hydrogen and nitrogen and hydrogen and oxygen. But the strongest one is hydrogen and oxygen because oxygen has a greater electronegativity than nitrogen. Therefore, the strongest intermolecular force is the hydrogen bonding of hydrogen and oxygen in Tylenol. So polar slash non-polar and melting points. So the compound is polar. This is due to the reason that there is a variation of electronegativity and that the lines are not symmetrical. Therefore, the molecule will be polar. So, for example, if I go back to this, you can see that all these are not in the same. They're not symmetrical. So it creates like a different it makes it non-polar, and there's also different electronegativities. So carbon, nitrogen, hydrogen, carbon, nitrogen, and oxygen all have different electronegativity. And the melting point of Tylenol is 168 degrees Celsius. The boiling point is 420 degrees Celsius. This kind of makes sense because when we eat Tylenol, it's a solid, and it doesn't look like it would melt at a different or at a like very low temperature. And boiling point, it doesn't seem that it would melt either, but it does mix with water to create like a aqueous solution. History, discovery, and commercial use. So Tylenol was discovered in the 19th century. In the late century per se, it was discovered by accident. It was not really like they were trying to discover it or anything. There were excess amounts of options for people with headache. Well, there was not access, so like there's like very few options for people with head or toothaches. They usually just had to live with it. The discovery is like very interesting. A wrong chemical called acetanilide was administered and given to a patient who had intestinal parasites. The fever like got reduced with the chemical, but the parasites didn't go away. And this was like the first time the chemical was ever tested on humans, and it had become the research that led to the compound, like led to a painkiller that is widely used by a lot of people these days. Acetaminophen, it had started selling in 1955 by the name Tylenol, which is commonly known as today. McNeil Laboratories had developed Tylenol, so they're the company who started like all this, and Harman Northrop Morse had synthesized acetaminophen and is not medically used for a period of time. And in 1893, it was discovered that the urine of people had shown that they had consumed phenacetin. So the biological, chemical, and scientific significance of the chemical. So the biological and chemical significance of this discovery was a step forward in science. Acetaminophen helps treat different diseases or any medical problems that may cause pain or fever. Some examples where acetaminophen can be used are headaches, back pain, a common cold, hip pain, sore throat, and sinus infection. The discovery of acetaminophen was also a huge discovery for scientists. It helped in all sorts of health issues and did not require patients to stay in a hospital. Even though there are side effects from the medicine, it's not like something which affects, like everyone. So if you maybe consume it like a day, like very like little, like maybe once or twice or three times a year, it won't really be affecting you. And it's not like something which would affect you if you're not using it like every day or something. If you're using it like very minimal, it's not gonna have any major side effects on you, or you probably won't have any small side effects either. So the ethical and societal views. So rats and mice were used to test acetaminophen. They were used to test for carcinogenicity, which in simple words is ability or tendency for acetaminophen to produce cancer. If it were to happen now, it wouldn't be appreciated if it were to be tested on animals nowadays. It's because like there's a lot of animal rights out there now that exist, and people don't really like animals. They're like really innocent, and no one really wants to kill animals and stuff, right? They may be a second source instead of testing on humans, but they really shouldn't be tested on these days. Also, in 1982, there was a recall of Tylenol due to cyanide lacing poisoning in a few people who had died, who had consumed Tylenol. The cyanide lacing was not put in by the company, but occurred after it left the factory it was produced in. So, it was like someone had put the lacing poison into the, into the molecule after it left. So this is probably somewhere in the, it could be somewhere in the store. It could be, when it was being transported to, the stores and stuff. It had, it worried people, and it created a trust factor, or it technically broke that trust factor between the company and some people who used it. Some people may not buy the medicine again, due to what happened, resulting into like a somewhat loss for the company. They have to like take all that back, and then they have to like produce more, and then they're just giving that back to people and stuff. So it was like if everyone got like a new Tylenol sample, it's like a 50% loss to the company. It had made a bad society view, and it had and people wouldn't want to buy it as like it contained poison for humans, and they wouldn't know if it contained the poison, even after they got the new boxes or whatever, Tylenol. So the impact on human health, society, and or environment. So while acetaminophen may help in different health issues, it also has side effects that affect human health. While they are not common, they do exist and can happen to anyone. Some side effects are rash, nausea, headache, hypersensitivity reactions, serious skin reactions, kidney damage, anemia, and reduced number of platelets in the blood, or in a simpler, one word thing is thrombocytopenia. It's like, it does, cure some of them. You could not really cure, but like it helps reduce a headache, and stuff. But like, it can still cause a headache too. So it can like worsen your headache, or and stuff like that. And these are only some of the things that may help like happen to you when you consume Tylenol. But like there's like a bunch of more things that may happen, but they're pretty rare, right? As I said before, it's like pretty rare to happen to anyone. There's also an environmental impact when like humans consume Tylenol. Some of the acetaminophen that is consumed by humans is like exerted as urine from humans and goes to like the nearest lake, river, or body of water, right? And so in that body of water, there's fish and stuff, right? All finned, finned friends, you could say. Uh, so for example, a rainbow trout was exposed to acetaminophen. And the fish had shown signs of an altered cellular structure in the body, specifically the or the liver, kidney, and gills in that fish. So these signs were shown within 2 weeks of exposure. The severity increased as the exposure time increased, and some effects include kidney damage, which creates difficulties to reabsorb nutrients back into the body, and reduced swim speeds, and there is less energy stored in the liver for the fish. So if once it gets to like the body of water, it's gonna start affecting our fishes and everything like that. So like it's not really something which we want to happen to our fish. It really affects fishes. It might not be as much, but there's it's like humans, right? If you consume Tylenol, you're not going to be affected as much, but there's still that like percentage which you might get like these type of problems and stuff. And so this is my legend. This is also in the Word document. So as you can see, my model name. This is very small, but the colors, and these are elements. So the color orange represents hydrogen. The color gray represents carbon. The color blue represents nitrogen, and the color red represents orange. And I'll actually just be showing these in real life, and this is just the references. So for the chemical itself is right here. So as you can see, this is ox. So this is like a full form factor. These yellows are hydrogen, as I said. That's carbon. That's a benzene ring, right? There's usually that hydrogen's connected on this side, and on the right, you can see that's oxygen connected and hydrogen connected. And then over here, you can see from the benzene ring, it has 6 carbons. You can see that there's a nitrogen connected, and then there's a hydrogen connected to that. There's a carbon with a double bond to an oxygen, which has another bond to a carbon, and 3 hydrogens. It has 3 bonds to hydrogen and 1 bond to carbon. It's a very basic compound. It's not really complex as you would per se. In the condensed formula, like condensed you would say diagram, you would see like a line and then another line, an N and a NH probably, and then you can probably see that double bond to O. This will just be a benzene ring with these double bonds, these 3 double bonds and these 3 single bonds. You wouldn't really see those hydrogens, but I'd show them. And then you'd see probably like another line here with red to like oxygen and to a hydrogen. So it'd be probably like a line and then an OH. And so that's my presentation. And then here's another view of the references.